living in the United States in the 21st century, I feel like when I think about this question, I think about all of the different diasporic peoples that live in our country. I think about the effects of colonization and the displacement of people. I also think about the personal. I think about the fact that my dad is Mexican and brown, and my mom is white and Anglo-Saxon. Many of you know Lauren Bristol is my mom. So a lot of this really, and I was born in Austin, Texas, and grew up in white suburbia in central New York. So a lot of this really feeds into the work that I make and why I make what I make. So first I want to bring it back to my family. There are two major things I want to talk about from my upbringing that has really influenced my work. One is family, and specifically my parents, and the other is some health struggles that I've had for most of my life. But this is my mom and my dad here, my brother and I. And my parents split when I was very young, and my mom came out lesbian. And when she did, she brought in all of these amazing books into the house about feminism and like goddess mythology. And I was hearing my mom talk about this idea of the goddess from a very young age. She also brought in books about like modern science and this possible overlap with spirituality. And she introduced me to Frida Kahlo as well, who I'll talk a little bit more about in a couple of slides. And then my dad passed away a few years ago, Roberto Bettis, and he influenced me in the sense that he was an amazing storyteller. He was the second youngest of 12, born in 1933, so his parents were actually born in the late 1800s. I never got to meet them because they died long before I came into the picture. But a lot of my connection to my Mexican culture and heritage was really through my dad's storytelling, or visiting my dad and my Mexican family in Texas whenever we could. Here is my dad's father on the left, Felipe, and on the right is Felipe and his wife Amalia with all of their sons. My dad's on the far right. Just the sons, yes, not including the daughters. And so one of the stories that I love to hear my dad tell was about our family's connection to Pancho Villa. We don't have photographic evidence of it, but the story goes that my grandfather Felipe, the man in the front row on the left-hand side in the left photo, he was a railroad engineer in Monterrey during the Mexican Revolution, and my family tells the story that he would take Pancho Villa to Texas or to the United States whenever he needed to cross the border. And my dad's oldest sister, Jupita, remembers him coming over for dinner when she was really little. So, really interesting story there, and there's Pancho Villa on the right-hand side. So this really sparked my interest in learning more about my family history, my heritage, and then eventually I became more interested in finding out about my indigenous ancestry as well. And so this is the second thing that really influenced me from my childhood was my health struggles. When I was very little, I had epilepsy, and we discovered that I have a brain tumor that I've been monitoring all my life. I actually had brain surgery last year. And when I was 15 years old, it grew, and I missed my whole junior year of high school. Was homeschooled, spent a lot of time alone, and that's when my mom introduced me to Frida Kahlo. She really encouraged me to look at her art. Frida had gone through also a physical turmoil when she was a teenager. She got into a horrible accident on a bus and dealt with physical struggles the rest of her life because of it. And so I felt like I could relate to her in that sense, not in the fact that she was injured like that, but I was dealing with physical turmoil. I had to spend a lot of time alone because of it. And she also has, her mother was indigenous, but her father was German, so I related to her in that way, and her being Mexican. And so I was really inspired by her to make self-portraits. These are two paintings by her that I really resonated with, and especially the one on the right, The Broken Column. I really was just moved by the fact that even though she's crying, she has this stoic look on her face, just looking directly back at me, at the viewer, even though she's obviously in pain. So when I came back to school, I drew myself with Frida Kahlo's hair from Self-Portrait with Braid, and I was encouraged by my art teacher to submit it to a competitive teenage show at the Community Folk Art Center, and it won Best in Show. And then that was when I was like, okay, maybe I will look into art when I go to college. Maybe I'll try this out. Maybe, yeah. So then, right after high school, I moved to New York City to go to Hunter to take art classes. I lived in Harlem, went to school on the Upper East Side and worked on the Upper West, and that's when I met my boyfriend at the time, who was from Puebla, Mexico. And he introduced me to just a whole world of art that I had never been exposed to, like Mexican street art, and specifically these magazines that had art relating to like Dia de los Muertos or Mexica gods and goddesses. I'm going to use the word Mexica. A lot of people know them as the Aztecs, but the Aztec is actually a word created by scholars. Mexica is the word that they use to call themselves. So this really influenced my work, and I wanted to start making self-portraits that was incorporating a little bit more of this imagery. On the left-hand side is with just sugar skull makeup that I've drawn onto my face from Dia de los Muertos. And the self-portrait on the right is more referring to the spiritual modern science books that my mom had introduced me to. I was reading about lots of books on like quantum physics and things, and I was also looking at the art of Alex Grey, who he does these amazing figurative paintings, very anatomically correct, kind of X-ray vision of musculoskeletal systems and bodies, but also very spiritual at the same time, with like these eyes in the background. And so I was thinking about the eyes as like this representation of consciousness, but my third eye is closed, so I'm like clogged in a way. But I titled it Unfocused Mind because that's how I was feeling at the time. And again, kind of referring to the health struggles as well. This drawing, which is back behind the desk over there, this is the first drawing I did that was, I filled the whole paper. I was thinking more about placing my portrait in some sort of setting. And again, this one's referring to those books I was reading at the time, specifically The Holographic Universe. In the book, the author, Michael Talbot, talks about how the holographic theory could be a possible explanation for like miraculous things that happen. So we talked about like psychic phenomena, telepathy, out-of-body experiences, but he also talked about miraculous healing, and I was very interested in that. And so I've drawn myself like looking away from my hand after possibly like digging through my brain to get out the tumor, but the tumor's not there because I'm looking away. And so this is referring to the double slit experiment, which basically proved that electrons are both particles and waves. And so in the experiment, when they measured it, the electrons were like particles, but when they were looking away and not measuring it, they were acted like a wave function or a wave possibility. And so I'm playing on that idea here, that if I'm looking away from my hand, maybe if I'm not fearing the tumor or focusing on the worst that can happen, and instead I'm thinking about good health and being tumorless, maybe it doesn't have to exist for me. So it's kind of like a thought experiment in a way for me, this drawing. This is the largest piece that I have made to date. I'm still working with paper and using colored pencil. This one's called Coatli Kwe. I've drawn myself as the Mexica goddess. She is known as a maternal earth goddess. She has a dual nature like many of the goddesses do. Each goddess kind of represents their own realm, and so in that realm they represent everything, so there's this duality to it. So she's the creator and the destroyer. And there's this colossal sculpture of her at the Museum of Anthropology in Mexico City, in which she has no head, but instead coming out of her neck are two facing serpents. And so I wanted to just really pay homage to her and the imagery that she's associated with, and playing on this idea of the duality. I've got the two snakes, one on either side. The one on the left is more stoic and observing and calm, and the one on the right is just more active and aggressive. And then again, using similar imagery with the bleeding snakes from the neck. And she also wears a necklace of human hearts, hands, and a skull. So just using a lot of the imagery there. And there's the statue that is at the museum in Mexico City. Like the two facing serpents coming out of her neck almost make another frontal facing face as well. And then I just wanted to include a few process photos. So it's just 3 pieces of paper that I put together, and I worked from an iPad. And there it is there. So fast forward a few years, I decided to go back to get my BFA. I did not finish at Hunter. I later finished at SUNY Oswego. And this is where I learned how to paint. I always wanted to paint, but just didn't have the materials, or it didn't work out at the time. And so I got to oil paint, which is what I really wanted to do. And we also learned about the old masters, the European painters. These are just a few examples of paintings that really affected me and influenced the work that I make. This is a lot of all of these are Mannerist paintings. So the one in the middle and the one on the left, I wanted to include to show kind of something that I was referring to with the archways in some of these paintings. I see them as kind of like a portal. And so I think part of the Mannerist paintings that I was really influenced by was also this like staging. I think that I do that a lot with my paintings, like staging certain things. And then the one on the right is just an example of a self-portrait. Again, like Frida, like with this gaze looking right back at the viewer that I really liked. So this was the first painting that I had done. It was in school actually for an assignment. And it's very straightforward, this one for me. It's called Ancestral Strength, and I used swords as a headdress to kind of play on that. And again, using the Dia de los Muertos makeup as well. And then this is just my process when I'm making a painting. I take a lot of reference photos. I wanted to see what the makeup would look like on my face with the light hitting my face a certain way. It was really important to me to be able to get the light right, to be able to capture that right in the painting. And then I just like made up this headdress, and these just really help guide me when I'm actually doing the painting. And then this is just kind of early stages to almost completion. This painting, another one for a class, this one is referring to Xochitl. So she's a goddess that is really connected to like fertility. She's usually depicted as a young, alluring woman. She's associated with pregnancy, birth, sexuality, and also traditional women's crafts, like weaving, for example. And so I really just had this, a lot of these paintings, it comes to me as just like this gut feeling, this idea of something that I want to see on the canvas. So I had this idea of having wounds and sewing them up with these threads. A few of the goddesses wear these headdresses with the cotton spools of cotton thread. And so I was just playing on this idea of using them to help heal me or lace up these wounds. And then that brings me to most of the large paintings that you see here. I actually applied for a grant at my school and was awarded it. I proposed, again, the same sort of concept of painting myself as these goddess archetypes, but on a much larger scale. And this allowed me to use scholarly resources to do more research. on the mythology. So this one, Know Thyself, Heal Thyself. This one I'm referring to Tosi, who's a grandmother goddess associated with healing, and by the same token is also known as the Woman of Discord, so she's associated with war as well. And again, I just had this idea of wanting to do a portrait of myself facing myself. And I painted myself as Tosi on the left-hand side with she's usually depicted with these like black markings around the nose and mouth, and with the spools of thread as well. And I just was imagining like what it would be like for her to pass just like knowledge, wisdom to me and my present day self on the right. And again, some process photos to getting to. I wanted to show these ones because I think for a lot of my paintings, I might start off in one direction, but then if I realize the lighting isn't working or the color isn't right or something, I might just go in and completely redo it. So I realized that the reference photos I had used, the light just wasn't right and it wasn't saying what I wanted it to say. So I retook the photos with light shining directly on me to make the light source as if they're reflecting light to each other. And then I knew that the archway was too warm, I had to push it back, so I ended up making it more cool with adding more of the blue and purple to it. This one is one of these like sister paintings over here. This one is referring to Slazel Teodel. She is, she's known as the sin eater or the filth eater. She's kind of like a scapegoat figure. She represents the invoking of sinful behavior, but then also the purification of it. So I wanted to play on this idea with the dirt eating. So I just took a photo of myself with chocolate all over my face and then painted that. And then the white blouse, the white lilies, is also representative of purification, but more coming from like a Western Christian standpoint as well, which also has affected me. So also the archway, I really love this idea of the archway being a portal to the past, to this ancient wisdom, to my present day self, and to the future. And like the Mannerist paintings, I really liked that, but I wanted to include more of the design work that's actually at the temples, like in Teotihuacan. And this one again, She Carries New Life. This one's referring to Xochicalco. And the flower is bleeding, again, sort of representative of the fertility, the pregnancy birth, and the headdress of cotton spools of thread. This painting was the first one that I had done where I'm breaking out of the archway. I wanted to think about the context more. I wanted to think about the background or environment that I placed the figure as being more sort of reflective of what's going on internally, emotionally with the figure. And so again, this one refers to another Mexica goddess, Itzpapalotl, who is a fierce skeletal warrior goddess. And she's been depicted with vertical red lines on her face. She also is associated with a moth and oftentimes has like knife-tipped wings. But I just wanted to refer to her a bit with the machete. And I called it the discerner because I was thinking a lot about this like discerning energy, this like cutting away energy, almost like boundary making. And that is an image from one of the codices with, you can see the red lines on her face. And this is one of my more recent paintings. This is referring very directly to my brain surgery last year. I've painted myself with the markings of Tosi, again, sort of trying to meditate on this healing aspect from her. And the contraption around my head is the Mayfield pins, which is what keeps your head in place for brain surgery. And yeah, I just was thinking about the uncertainty I was facing and having to close my eyes and let people I didn't know do brain surgery on me. And the nose is bleeding because they went through my nose actually to biopsy it. So yeah, I think this one is just trying to tap into some sort of power in all of that experience. I think that's it. Thank you. I don't know if anyone has questions or anything like that, but...
I have a question.
Sure.
The photographs that you take when you had your quote-unquote makeup on, do you do that all yourself?
Yes. Yeah, I did that. I'm just looking at like reference images online or anywhere, and I just tried to make it up.
So the big things around your eyes and the red stuff coming down,
yeah.
All, you do that yourself?
Yeah, just makeup, eye pencils, lip pencils, yeah.
I love the chocolate, so that's not real dirt.
No, well, it's supposed to represent it, yes, but I didn't include that reference image, but I did. I just melted chocolate and put it all over my face, yeah.
It's a compliment, but a comment. I was, Cheryl and I were talking about your technique earlier, and I gotta say that your realism technique is nicely balanced to your message, to what you're saying. You're not taking it too far for the sake of making it realistic. I really, yeah, right, it's not photorealistic. You're using it very nicely.
Thank you.
So what is your technique? Are you glazing? I don't see any glazing there. But.
A good honest answer is I'm still figuring it out. I have glazed a little bit. When I was doing the discerner, the piece with the machete, some of the clouds weren't as red-orange as I wanted them to be, so later on I glazed over it. Just like more medium and a little bit of pigment, and went over it to make it warmer. But I'm not really glazing on with skin tones or anything like that. I did learn it in school. I just go in pretty opaquely with skin. Sometimes I might scumble a little bit, which is like a little bit of dry brushing some paint on, but I'm still figuring it out. Yeah.
It's working beautifully.
Thank you.
You mentioned the lilies as symbolic, but there are flowers in virtually all of the work. Roses look to me to be sunflowers, straw flowers.
Yeah.
Is there a consistent meaning that should be applied to the flowers in your work?
I think with them all being these feminine goddess archetypes, the flower is very symbolic of fertility, I think, regeneration and stuff like that. So I didn't really consciously plan all of it, but I think that might be a thread connecting all of them. Yeah. Yes.
So I am a student of quantum physics myself. I've been looking at this for 35, 40 years. I was older than you. But I'm curious, in the working, in your work, which is astonishing. I'm just going to say it's astonishing.
Thank you.
Have you felt any healing in the sort of connection to it? Has doing the work shifted you at all?
You mean specifically referring to the scientific spiritual stuff? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, and your healing, and even your thoughts about your illness and healing.
Yeah. I think, first I want to say that when I first dealt with the brain tumor growing when I was a teenager, I really was told by Western medicine doctors, there's not much we can do, we just are going to watch it. It was inoperable at that time. And so my 15-year-old mind was devastated, this uncertainty, facing my future. But pretty quickly, Actually 2 months later, really, I think it was, I remember, my mom introduced me to the holistic, really like community and alternative medicine a little bit. And so reading those books and just like opening my mind to other possibilities, that really helped me. I think art making in general is therapeutic, or at least, I think it is pretty therapeutic, just in its essence for most people. I'm literally like painting and drawing myself, so I'm having to like really face myself. But I think that I'm not really thinking so much about it before I do it. I think I'm just having this like feeling that I need to make these pieces in the context of reading all those things and being exposed to what I was exposed to. But I don't really know exactly how it all happened, and I do feel like it's healing. I don't know that I can tell you specifically like how it's healed me, but it's been a huge part of that process. And I'm doing way better today than I was a decade ago. So, yeah, is that a good answer?
And well, there's fields, right? And in another field, you're completely healthy and healed, right?
Yes,
When
that
you
is the
think about
point,
that,
to shift your mindset into like acting as if it's happening right now, that kind of thing. Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Sophia, could you talk a little bit more about the Archways portal? How are you using that?
The portal, you mean with the archway?
The portal to...
Well, I mean, I'm tapping into, I'm exploring my ancient heritage. So, with these goddesses. And so I feel like the archway is a perfect way to place that figure, because it is like I'm like going back in time in a way, or I'm making a connection to another time. So it just felt like the archway just fit as the portal.
Because a doorway implies time. It might be static, but it's something, either you're going through it or you're not going through it.
Yes, yeah, definitely.
Because you said it was going backward and also coming forward.
Yes, yeah, exactly. Thinking about my future and healing and what that will look like. Yes, definitely. And making the decision to step through. Yeah, definitely.
Do you expect to continue exploring this theme for a while, or is there something else percolating in your...
Yeah, that's a good question. I think I might have a few more of these archetypes I want to explore, but with the newest work, which would be the the small painting over here, the one with the machete, and then the one actually behind the screen.
So is it the screen
Okay, thank you. The direction that I really want to move in is maybe not away from the mythology or these archetypes, but I want to move into like continuing working with the figure, but placing it within a context or an environment. I want to like branch out. I think before, and especially in school, I was really trying to like master to my best ability doing a figure. And so I was just kind of placing it on this sort of gradient background or, you know, a solid color. But now I really want to explore like where the figure can be in a setting.
How long to do all this work?
Well, this spans a lot of time. The drawings are like a decade old, but to give you an example, this is the newest one. I put it up on the wall wet, and I would like to revisit it. I haven't had enough time with it, to be honest. The small painting over there took me about a week and a half, and then I don't know, I'm trying to remember how long they took. It was a few weeks at a
Well,
time.
they say 2024, and I'm just thinking these are pretty amazing pieces for, you know, to be done in the same time period.
Thanks, yeah, I just didn't even sleep. I just painted for a month before the show.
One more process question, if
Sure.
I may. So I noticed I've done both pencil and oil, and I'm not good at either, but they're very different. So when you had said, when you were at Hunter and you hadn't done painting back then, there's an astonishing change, right? So I'm like, what was it, or how did you eventually arrive at this, which seems incredibly proficient?
Thank you. That's a good question. It was hard in the very beginning when I first started painting, but I don't know, I think I learned how to do underpaintings, and that really helped. So under all of these, I've done like chromatic, just monochromatic painting with one color, like burnt umber. That's how we learned how the masters did it. And then that's just to place where everything is going to go, and then also to get values, so you know what's going to be light and dark when you go in with color. But yeah, I think when I was drawing, I was like finishing it as I was going, the drawing. But with paint, you can always just like add more layers to it. Yeah, I think it was a long process learning to paint. It was hard, very hard for me in the beginning. It was kind of going against what I really wanted to do. I had to be okay. That's part of, like, people say do it for the process. You have to be okay with it looking quite ugly for so long, and then it comes together at the end. That's how my paintings are. Yeah.
As your mom, you say that it was this long process of learning to paint, but it wasn't. She learned it like that.
Right.
It happened so fast, it was shocking.
Thanks, Mom.
It's true. Everybody said, "Oh my God!" And you didn't
I was ready.
mess along with it. You dove into it and produced amazing work.
Well, thank you, Mom. Thank you. I was ready. I felt limited by colored pencil. By the time I had done the triptych, I knew that I wanted to work larger, and I felt like I'd be able to just achieve that much easier with a larger brush. So yeah, I was definitely ready. I think that probably helped a bit.
Who is this goddess under the water here?
This
What is
is
that
this is Chalchiuhtlicue. So she represents she's like a water goddess. She represents bodies of water, and again associated with fertility and birth because of that. I think this one also is moving in a new direction because I'm not painting myself as these goddesses anymore. I'm kind of like, there's a bit of separation, but I'm still like trying to connect to it. So yeah, I just had this idea of painting her underwater and kind of stumbling upon her at like a water's edge or something like that. Yes.
I just want to say I really appreciate your vulnerability in your art, in your presentation, and Frida would be happy.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. Thanks.
I just have to say, when she lifted the screen, I was very surprised to see this.
Yeah.
It's so different
Yeah.
from the rest of them. The rest of them almost seem like you have something to prove. Like, here I am, I'm a goddess, and I'm going to survive. Bam.
Yeah.
And this one, it's just, there's something much softer about it that you're going to be able to sink into things in a way that you couldn't before. I think it's really lovely.
Thank you. Thank you.
I mean, I love them all, but this is just really,
Thank you. I resonate with what you said, something to prove. I think with this one, I loosened up a lot more.
yes, you did.
It's funny, my favorite painters paint so much more loosely than I do. That's the work that I'm really drawn to. And so I want to challenge myself to, I still want to do representational and work with the figure, but I want to see what it would look like to loosen up more.
Yeah.
Who are your favorite painters?
Do you know Haley Josephs? Haley Josephs. She's a little older than me, but she's not tapping into like a culture like this, but she's almost like making her own mythology with her paintings. She does female figures as well, but she, like, you'll see just like a large brushstroke just left as it is, just untouched. Like with these other paintings, I was just going in and blending every little thing, and I really admire that, just being able to leave like a gestural mark, you know, something like that. So I'm really, really drawn to her work.
To gesture or not to gesture?
Yes, that is the question. Yes.
Grip or not to grip?
Sophia's done some really magnificent three-dimensional work too. And
Oh, thank you.
it would be nice if it was included. Some of them are gone, but.
Yeah. She's referring to a project I did in school that I lit on fire in her yard. Yeah, it was part of the piece. It was all about catharsis. So it doesn't exist anymore.
Sophia, I just have to say that your work is absolutely 1,000, 100 million, trillion, gazillion% magnificent. And
Thank you.
you're even more magnificent. And, you know, speaking of portals, and, you know, you came from a magnificent woman, Lauren, my sister, and I see these portals and I see you just emerging. I was there when you were born.
This is my hands, everyone.
You're blowing me away.
Thank you. Thank you. I love you. Thank you.
Good work, and I love you too. This is really great.
Now I'm feeling like that.
Well, I love art, so I can talk forever. So, but after this woman said that about this painting, I realized, oh yeah, that looks like iconography over there, which has sort of Christian background. So I was just curious if that was even a thought, or did it just come out that way? And is there anything like that in other cultures, right? You know, that is part of you.
Yeah, I think definitely, well, my dad was like Mexican Catholic, like very Catholic, so there's a bit of that. But then that was a lot of what I was looking at when we're looking at art history, Western art history, with the masters and Renaissance, Mannerists, all of those periods. So I think I was really influenced by that without like really consciously thinking about it and planning it. I think it just came out in my work. Do you know the artist Kehinde Wiley? He does these amazing, powerful portraits of all kinds of people now, but he started with like black men, and in these poses that were actually taken from these paintings from these old masters that were typically like white men, you know. So I think I was also looking at that, love his work, and I think it just kind of crept in somewhere and influenced. Yeah. Yes.
When I first saw these portraits a week or two ago, I was struck by how somber each one was. And then tonight, coming here, I was struck by how expressive your face is. And I wonder if you do work with that part of you.
Wait, what? Sorry, what's the question?
The joyful part.
Sorry.
Well, I mean, I was contrasting the art in here, the gallery,
Yeah.
and how somber
Yeah.
the faces of your face is.
Mhm.
But that isn't how you appear to be now, by any means.
Yeah, that's interesting.
And so
Yeah.
I'm wondering, was this an earlier time, many of these, or this way of approaching it came out of a more somber time in your life?
Yeah. I think the work is just inherently kind of heavy with the subject matter I'm working with. I understand what you're saying about the somber. I think the way I see it is that there might be all of this adversity, but I still have this like stoicness that, like especially the one with the wounds that I'm healing up, that painting, like actually trying to like place my head higher, like I'm trying to, yeah, I think it's about like empowerment, even amongst the adversity. So I don't think my aim is to make them somber. I think it's to empower, maybe, in a way.
Power.
Thank you.
A lot of power. And then when I see this, I saw this when I first came in, it was magnificent, and then of course went around, like it was like I went backwards, right? And I saw you embracing like each one of these goddesses, like you became them. I felt that you had become them, embodied them. And then I didn't see the last piece, but when I saw this again after you speaking, and I thought, this is because you're saying to this one that I know you. I can talk to you now. We can communicate, and the water is like a portal.
Yeah.
To me, it's like,
Thank you.
Thank you.
I didn't even think
you
of
were
that.
ready to like, I know you. We can, you know, I can touch you.
Yeah.
We have a connection.
Yeah. Thank you.
So to see that.
I like that. Yeah. Thanks.
You know, an observation along with those lines, I see your icon, an icon in general, I don't want to be pedantic, but an icon in general is about absolute, like, let's say, an object of worship. So, you know, you have symmetry and you have the portal and whatnot. So it seems to me like maybe you're looking at your relationship to an absolute, where you're not there, you're questioning it there. So it's like the relationship to an absolute, or the quote unquote absolute.
Yeah.
And
I like that.
Something else is going on.
Yeah. That's a really interesting observation. I actually really resonate with that. I think for a lot of these pieces, and like we talked about before, doing this healing work and doing all this research into modern science and spirituality, literally trying to find an answer, I think maybe that is how that came out. And I think in recent years, and just getting older and aging, like, I'm becoming a bit more comfortable with the unknown again. I think before, like, I needed an answer. The drawing behind the desk, I titled it "The Nut Deceived the Kernel" because I was literally looking for the answer, like what could solve my problems, what is like the ultimate, which I kind of resonate. I feel like that relates to this idea of this icon that you're talking about. So maybe that is a new direction that I'm going in.
I heard listened to the comment about somber, and I'm watching you, and I'm hoping that we're going to see the joyfulness and the humor, wit, I suppose. I don't see it, but I'm sure it's there in future works, because I think that's the other side, right? And all of these figures have a duality to them. All these goddesses have two aspects. And so we're seeing one aspect represented, and the other is there and in you.
Yes.
It's the next show.
Yeah.
Sofía,
Maybe. Yes.
do you speak Spanish?
Un poquito. Maybe I can try. Let's see.
For me, it's too hard speaking English.
Okay.
I try all the time, but it's terrible for me. But in Spanish, you can translate them, maybe?
Maybe. I am not fluent.
Well,
Mi papá no me enseña español.
okay.
Somebody
Somebody?
will.
This, yeah.
Somebody speak Spanish here? Well,
A little bit, un poquito.
that I want to say, voy a tratar de, I try to mix my Spanish with your English, and I try to that you understand. But I don't want to go without tell you tell you about the dignity that you represent, your culture, the dignity that you defend yourself, even you have that pain, even you are waiting, is your life or no, is you understand in that process. Any of your painter reflect sad, understand? Everything is color, everything is happiness, everything, understand? It's you.
Yeah.
It's you, because it's you. I see you, your picture, you, but I feel you inside.
Yeah.
Understand? I feel you inside, how you, the strong that you are, and always everything is happy. I don't see the color that you use, the way that you represent. In any picture, I see you sad. Understand? Maybe you are in pain. You are sad. You are sad. I don't know, but you don't represent that in your. And it's good. It's a message for the other people, but sometimes we don't know how to handle the pain, how to handle any situation, and that is serious. That you pass a serious process, and you did with dignity.
Thank you.
Understand?
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Thank you. Yes.
This is your first artist class.
Yes. Yeah.
There will be many more.
Thank you, Nancy. Thank you.
So I have to ask,
Yeah.
the portrait on the wall right there,
Yeah.
for me, it seems like it represents you in the future. Because you look older, you've got silver through your hair.
Yes.
It's very beautiful. I mean, they're all beautiful, but it just sort of goes to the, like you've moved forward. This is futuristic. Your self-acceptance and your drawing on the power, once again, of the goddess from the water. Just stunning work.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you. I think to add to what you were saying, I think that's like the point of this show. Like I titled it "My Shadow is My Teacher." I think I wanted to like make it good and okay to like sit with your shadow. To like, I think that's why maybe the bright colors and because it can be happy stuff and we all deal with adversity and hard shit in life. But I just feel like I wanted to make it like, but it's normal. And we all do, and we all have to if we really want to grow, you know? Yeah.
I
Yes.
wonder what it was like to sort of, kind of depict yourself as all these goddesses. I mean, we sort of have, deities, that we sort of personify different aspects of the world, but then, it seems like you've also sort of brought all those into yourself.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know how to answer that. I think I was just, I think maybe it was just like an inherently like empowering process. again, I'm not like really planning it all out and thinking it all out as I'm making it. It's just like a gut feeling that I want to see myself like this, you know, and I think that there is meaning in it, but I'll think about it later, you know. Yeah.
You were reckoning with life and death, and you've been reckoning with life and death, whether you were really aware of it or not, since you were 3 years old. And this is the proof of it. I mean,
Thanks.
it is.
Don't look at me, you're gonna make me cry. Yeah.
When you said that you hadn't really finished with the goddesses and that you're entertaining the idea of maybe 2 or 3 more, can you tell us a little bit of who they might be or what they may represent?
We can't hear that.
She was asking about because I talked about maybe working a little bit more with the goddess archetypes, and she was asking if I had plans basically for future
what would
ones.
they be? The 2 or 3 you thought you may entertain?
Yeah, I can't even tell you right now. I think I definitely want to revisit this one. And I might do some like repeat revisiting of other goddesses that I've talked about.
You mean with different imagery?
Yeah, or like incorporating it into like a scene or a setting of some kind. Yeah. But I don't feel the need anymore to paint myself as them.
Right.
Yeah.
So you found your personal power.
Yeah.
You conjured all these goddesses to help you and protect you and help you survive. So you became them. I mean, this is just the way it feels to me. You became them and you took their strength and you understood them. And now you can do it like that. Now you can be who you are and just share it without having to wear it and protect yourself with that armor, I think.
Yeah.
That says that to me so much.
Yeah, that's a good observation. I think that it's interesting hearing you say it like that, that I was like, I did paint myself as them or kind of showing their traits. Yeah, I don't know. I resonate with what you're saying. Yeah.
And now you're on an equal basis.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you. Hi, Karen. Yes.
I love the idea of portals and arches, and I feel like that sense of we don't know what's on the other side, but we move through it anyway. And then we're talking about birth, you know.
Yes, I was thinking about you. Yeah, I was thinking about you saying that you came out of her. Yeah.
Most of us had to go through a portal, but I think it's really a important image for now, when none of us know what the future's like. We have to find that great goddess in us anyway and move through it with flexibility and not knowing what's going to happen.
Yes, definitely. I resonate with that. But yeah, that uncertainty. Yeah.
Sort of trusting.
Yes.
It's so, I'm trying to think how I would feel about these images if I didn't know you, if I came in off the street and I met you when you were in the world. And so I know a lot of the story of these images. And, what's coming through to me is, if I came off the street, I would say, my God, what a painter. God, what?
What?
God, what a painter.
What a painter, yeah.
What a painter. And there's a whole story here of your heritage and what you have contended with your body and all of that. And at the end of the day, my God, what a painter.
Thank you, Nancy.
It's really, really what I want.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, everyone.
Yeah. So, just amazing conversation. I'm glad, yes. Thank you everyone for participating. Feel free to stay for a bit. There's, I think, some more snacks in the back. I'll just put a plug in, there's prints in the gift shop. And thanks for coming.